I figured I'd try to make something that was a little bit, I guess, crazier. Some would say psychotic for some of the videos. I know Shrimply Explained, if someone goes to the video, they might be like, oh my God, this is a lot. And pack in the protein, the cholesterol. And so feeding frequently is going to benefit your shrimp the most.
Rick, thank you for taking the time to join me on the Fish Keeping Answers podcast. I appreciate you taking some of your day to join us. You and I first connected when you were doing the research into your video on bloodworm, on shrimp eating bloodworm, and whether or not they really were high protein. Mm-hmm. And I had seen 2 or 3 of your videos before that. But for anyone who isn't familiar with yourself or the Shrimply Explained YouTube channel, tell us a bit about you and your journey to where we are.
Okay, thanks so much for having me, Richard. I really appreciate it. In terms of my journey, it's been interesting for me. I have always had pets and whatnot as a kid, and growing up, normally I had some fish, like a crayfish, but then also cats. Just throughout my life, it's been mostly cats, actually. And finally, in the pandemic era here in about 2020, I was just looking at fish tanks and trying to decide what I might actually want to have, and stumbled upon shrimp. So after that, there's a nice little rabbit hole down YouTube, partially brought by you, which I really appreciate. And so it was a lot of fun going through and seeing the shrimp competitions, everything. You can dive so deep into shrimp, which is just something I tend to do if my goal is to really deeply understand how everything works. Ideally, whatever I'm doing, I'm always asking why, asking questions, and that consistently leads me to just more and more questions. So eventually you get to the point where a lot of the content that is online just isn't enough. Or it gets to where the edge of knowledge is, and then there's still more questions. There's always something interesting. Part of this is kind of because I have always been interested in science. I have a degree in molecular biology, and then even though I don't really use it for my job, it's actually coming very handy here. Just reading all the papers and trying to learn as much as I can about shrimp. So that's kind of where I've come from. Doing this has been a lot of fun. And so when you're making content and not just like watching things, reading things, it lets me be much more creative, learn even more. I have to learn more deeply. So creating this content is it's for the viewer, but it's also for me to be able to back up my knowledge, to have real sources, to really understand it deeper. And hopefully if I'm wrong about anything, then someone will correct me. And so we can continue learning, continue pushing the hobby forward, and just keep having fun.
I think to your credit, on my videos, I just share my experiences, whereas you seem to want to know why and find out why this happens, that happens, and you bring that to your audience. And I think that makes for almost for a unique type of video on YouTube. I don't think there are many people who really delve into the whys as you do in your videos. So I think that does bring something new.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you pointing that out. That's kind of, to some degree, if I'm thinking about it from like a business perspective, there's a specific niche that just wasn't being answered. So Alexander Williamson with Fishery is doing a little bit of this sort of scientific look into a tank for more. He's absolutely covered a lot about shrimp, and it's awesome. Somewhere I've learned a lot about, but it's more focused on fish, I would say, and like plants and stuff. So being able to take that aspect and really focus on shrimp has been a lot of fun. Yeah.
and you're just a shrimp guy these days, are you? You got any fish in your care, or are you just shrimp?
Well, as you'll see in the video, in the recording when you were gone, I was showing my tank a little bit here, and it does, I started out the tank with a couple shrimp and 4 coolie loaches. And so that's pretty much it for fish. I thought the coolie loaches were really interesting. The research online is a little bit unclear of like, are they going to be good or bad with shrimp? But from my experience here, and that's not to say that's going to be everybody's experience, but I've never seen my coolie loaches really show any interest in the shrimp at all.
Oh, that's good. So certainly
yeah.
in your experience, it works as a combo, as a combination.
I think I've never also like heard of anyone like actually seeing a coolie loach eating or attacking a healthy shrimp. It's likely that they're going to get some of the bait, like they might like eat a baby every now and again. But yeah, they're pretty peaceful overall. So I do enjoy it. I'd probably try to go and I'd probably try to get some pea puffers or something at some point, but I'm very busy with shrimp right now. And I have plenty of questions and enough to keep me busy for years at this point. So we'll see.
So you've been on YouTube for around about a year or so now. What motivates you to make shrimp keeping videos and sort of science-backed shrimp videos?
So I've mentioned that like there's a bit of a niche that I saw like kind of empty in terms of providing scientific content to shrimp. There's also a little bit of an entertainment aspect to it. Like there are a lot of like peaceful, interesting videos, but I was looking for something. I figured I'd try to make something that was a little bit, I guess, crazier. Some would say psychotic for some of the videos, but it's a lot of fun to try to figure out how to explain pretty complex scientific information in an entertaining way while still keeping things fairly shrimple. Like I know Shrimply explained, if someone goes to the video, they might be like, oh my God, this is a lot. And it is, but everyone can understand this information. And it's in the end, anything can be explained in a simple enough way that people can understand and benefit from this information. Hopefully I'm doing that. If I'm not, then anyone who is viewing my video and isn't understanding it, I apologize. That's my failure. That is not yours. And I would appreciate it. I would love to get feedback on that. I want to make my videos better. I want to make sure that even these complex subjects can be understood. And because there are just so many benefits to understanding your tank at a deeper level. So that's kind of why I try to make these videos.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think anybody who comes to your videos, perhaps new or as a result of this podcast, I think they will see you do a great job of bringing an element of comedy in the right way and entertainment, because I guess some of the information can be quite dry. It can be if you just sat and read from a textbook, it would turn people off pretty quickly. But I think people will agree you do bring that sort of entertainment value, that comedy, which I hopefully you do deliberately. You do bring that as well as providing all the information. So I think you do that really well, personally.
Oh, thank you so much, Richard. I'm glad it comes across because, yeah, I mean, a lot of the behind the scenes of these videos is not very interesting. It's me staring at research papers for hours at a time, trying to find something that is like interesting and useful, and then thinking about how to make it interesting for other people. So there's that whole educating aspect for others, and thinking that the more people know about their tank, the better they'll be able to take care of their shrimp. And hopefully the more they'll enjoy the hobby, and then the more they'll learn, the more they'll keep asking questions and diving deeper. And because you never know how this information might actually apply to the rest of your life, whether that's how you interact with. So by understanding how like your actions can affect this small ecosystem, that can kind of transfer to how your interactions with a larger ecosystem, even whether that's the ocean, whether that's a river. Like, how is your trash going to affect that ecosystem? What's in that trash? How is that going to affect water quality? Like, thinking about it and being more cognizant of how you interact with the environment is also something that's really important. And that's why I don't know if that comes across all the time in the videos, but it's something that I do want to emphasize more and more. So that, hopefully you can learn to appreciate your tank more too. So by educating people like on the benefits of snails. A lot of people are like, oh, pest snails. I got a bladder snail with my plant. I treated it and everything, and it's still in my tank. This sucks. I would highly disagree. I could not disagree more, because bladder snails, I mean, they do populate quickly, but that's a fantastic thing. They are going to populate to whatever your ecosystem can handle, and that's however much food you're putting into your ecosystem. So if they're overpopulating, fantastic sign you're overfeeding. So by understanding that, you can see what your tank is actually telling you. So you can troubleshoot more effectively and hopefully appreciate what these snails are doing for an ecosystem. Same thing for microorganisms, plants, everything. So that's the larger goal here, but simply explained.
Fair enough. I mean, you touch on snails there. I'm personally a huge fan of snails. I'm really into rabbit snails at the moment.
Mm-hmm. They're amazing.
Do you think, yeah, they're absolutely fascinating. Do you think the hatred of snails, and we're going a bit off topic here, but the hatred of snails comes from all of these fabulous aquascapes we see on YouTube and in books and magazines? We see these stunning, flawless, aquariums filled with plants and fish and such like, and never a snail in sight. And I don't know about you. I think they're superb. I think exactly as you say, they are there to consume the uneaten food, to eat the leaves that are breaking down. They do tend to just populate to the amount of food available, exactly as you say. But I just don't know why there is such a hatred of them, of particularly people new to the hobby. They seem to see it as a failure. I don't know.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there. It is something like, this is a invasion of my tank. This snail is, oh no, it's ruining my vision. Especially for like, if you're an aquascaper, I totally understand that. They have very particular visions. And I think that's going to be really difficult when you're looking for something that's perfect. If you're a perfectionist, I don't know if aquascaping is the right, or like aquariums are necessarily the right thing to at least be approaching with that viewpoint, because the plants are always they're going to do their own thing. There are so many organisms in your tank that are going to be just living their lives, and you can't control that. But I think in some ways that means that your project, whatever it is going to grow and become something different and hopefully better, more complex than anything you imagined. And hopefully anyone can enjoy that experience. But it can be frustrating if your goal is just to have a completely algae-free, snail-free, this is what I want. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. No, I think it sounds like you and I are similar in the fact that we're trying to create an ecosystem rather than just a piece of living art. We're trying to create something that works in balance rather than just looks amazing when you stare in.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is art still. Like, that's part of what attracted me to aquariums. The ecosystem, you have some control over it, but you're starting it and then letting it go. And I think that's beautiful. I know that, you've, I get that feeling from all of your videos as well.
No, I'm definitely trying to create the whole package rather than just the snapshot. Yeah. So how many tanks have you got in your care at the moment?
Yeah, let's see. So got this one, my main kind of centerpiece tank that I've had set up for about 4 years since I started the hobby. And then there are 2 5 gallons over there up above. I've got, let's see. So one of them is for F1 generation of Caridina. And so if you're not familiar with breeding terms, the F1 is, so the F0 are basically the parents. And so the parents of those are tangerine tigers and crystal red shrimp. So those bred, and I've now got their babies in that tank. The one next to them are orange rillies, which probably my favorite shrimp at this point. I absolutely love looking at them, and the kind of still they've got some variety of patterns, but being able to see internally more what they look like, being able to really clearly see their eggs. Like, I know you recently got some, and so getting some good photos is fantastic for a thumbnail.
Absolutely. It's like having a window into the body of the shrimp. It's bizarre, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, really quickly, those 3 tanks. I've got one experimental tank that I'm testing a few things with down there, and then I have 3 other tanks in another room that I'm also doing some experiments on. So, 7 tanks total. 8 if you count. There's one little jar down there that I just have some extra plants that I've taken out from, and a shrimp ended up in there. Now it's living its life in there, and it's fine. So happens.
if it's got water and a shrimp, we count that as a tank. So that's
Okay.
that counts. Now, so you're based in California. I'm based in the UK. The UK is not known for its nice weather. It's not known for its warm temperatures. But I think your part of the world tends to be far more so. Do you ever venture into sort of outdoor summer tubbing, or have you got any shrimp tanks or ponds outdoors, or are you purely indoors at the moment?
Pretty much indoors at the moment. If I did venture into like an outdoor tubs, that would be more for a breeding setup. If I'm trying to sell shrimp, which I'm not. And that would come with its own sort of complications. Like, one, I'm renting this place, setting up a bunch of tubs out there. I don't want to think about moving them or dealing with that. The other thing here then is mosquitoes, right. Because any tank outside, if you're trying to, I know that I've seen like the Garden of Eden or Mark Shelley Aquatics, they've got their covers over it. So it's absolutely doable. But it'd be kind of fun to actually, if I'm going to make that project, create again an ecosystem that balances and that's low maintenance. And so I would probably put some fish in there along with a heavy plant load. So that way the shrimp and fish are actually protected somewhat, and they also are, but the fish are hunting any mosquito larvae in there. So create some balance, give them some free food, create something interesting.
Fabulous. But you say there, you mentioned that selling shrimp isn't your thing. You don't breed to sell at all. You're purely doing this for your own enjoyment.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a lot of fun. So I'm doing this, like Shrimply Explained, the YouTube channel. I'm doing this to educate people, but it's also it's for my benefit. I'm not doing this. It's because I enjoy doing it. And the other thing is that there's so much to learn when you're creating content, whether that is, who couldn't benefit from knowing how to really clearly organize information? How do you find and research information? So being able to improve those skills to hopefully create better and better content that does help people learn is incredibly beneficial for me for whatever I want to do in the future, because I'm not sure. This channel is fun. It's a fun little side project, but I'm also hoping to do more stuff. And so just building a broad knowledge base of teaching is incredible. And so that's kind of my goal here. One other thing, part of the reason I don't sell shrimp, I did sell a few just kind of get the experience, understand how it works. So I would sell locally to people, give them a bag of shrimp. But when I got the tangerine tigers from someone on Reddit, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, they happened to come with some Scuturella japonica, or actually technically another similar microorganism that I cover in the S. japonica video. But basically, I'm fine with them. So as the video that I have explains, they're not parasitic as far as we know. A parasite has to cause actual harm to a shrimp in their life cycle, and any damage seems to be very mechanical and surface level. Again, I'm go into that in the video. It's a little bit complex, but in the end, they're not parasitic and may even be beneficial. But going through this explanation for anyone who I want to sell to is a little bit absurd. So they're here, they're mine, I enjoy them, and that's going to be how it is for the foreseeable future.
Now, I have to admit, I'm a fish foodaholic. I'm obsessed by feeding my fish and my shrimp. What's your typical feeding regime? Are you a one food kind of guy, or are you more like me, where you got 20 or 30 different foods that you're always, rotating?
Okay, I was curious what you meant by fish foodaholic exactly. Whether that's are you eating this food? Or are you just tasting yourself, enjoying it? Okay, so you enjoy kind of testing out different foods, kind of seeing how they impact things, what people like, what shrimp or fish like more, or what benefits them the most. So I think there's a very real truth to the fact that no food is going to be perfect. There's nothing that's going to have everything that shrimp need. And so while there's while biofilm in the tank is going to be great for them, you can often you don't have to feed shrimp very much. And that's part of the reason I really like having them. Some food and a variety just throughout the days, weeks is going to help them. There's almost no situation where variety won't be better than just a single food. That being said, I mean, there are people like Lucas Bretz at LRB Aquatics, who, from what I understand, he just fed tetracolor, basically.
Yeah.
He's won a bunch of shrimp awards. So they clearly, if you have a healthy ecosystem, I suspect that they do get a lot of the nutrients they need to live healthy lives. For reference, let me see if I can pick this up. So this is kind of what I feed here. We've got a variety of glass garden products, some powdered bacterial food, some pellets for nanofish, some Sarah shrimp food. And I think, just mixing it up is probably good. Having something that's high protein, some high fat as well. Your recommendation on bloodworms, after looking into it, I really appreciate the fact that you pointed that out, and your observations are awesome there, because shrimp do need cholesterol and fats because they don't actually make it themselves. They cannot produce cholesterol. And so that has to come from their food. And I don't know how much biofilm provides. So the research seemed to suggest that actually feeding shrimp bloodworms, I forget what it is. I think, there's one, I think Artemia also has a similar benefit, but it may not have quite the same type of cholesterol that these bloodworms do that actually mimic the same hormones in a shrimp. And so they can be really beneficial for breeding. The other thing here is thinking about I talked about what to feed, but how much to feed, how often. And so that also really depends on your goals. If your goal is to breed the most shrimp, then you're going to be wanting to pack in the protein, the cholesterol. And so feeding frequently is going to benefit your shrimp the most, or towards whatever goal you want. If your goal is instead to just have a healthy, happy shrimp tank, you might prefer to just have feed once or twice a week. And so by doing that, you are letting your shrimp mainly feed you're letting your shrimp feed on their ecosystem, and in that way you're kind of controlling the population. You're keeping the nutrients at the level that your ecosystem can easily sustain. And so that means you're going to have to do a lot less maintenance. So you'll have to, with fewer nutrients going to the water, it's fewer water changes, just probably less algae issues, or fewer algae issues. And it again, all depends on your goals and how much work you want to be putting in for how much you should be feeding.
So Rick, you don't just have the YouTube channel. You've also got the website, shrimplyexplained.com. What was your motivations there to spend all that time and effort creating those articles?
Okay. I guess I didn't mention this before, but part of the reason that Shrimply Explained came to be is that I was just thinking of various names. I was like, Shrimply Explained. I like that a lot. Nobody else has that. I want to get that. I want to keep that. So I just decided to make a website to grab that, and figured that was a catchy enough, interesting name that if I ever wanted to do something with shrimp, I could. So that's kind of where that came about. It was kind of very spur of the moment to some degree. But the other thing is that different mediums just allow you to do different things. So writing is much easier for someone to search through, to just skim, get exactly what they want. And so in that way, it provides information in a different format. It also it's also, I'd say, quite a bit easier than video to some degree. You do your writing, you get it down on paper exactly how you want it, then you publish it. So I like that. I like having something that people can come back to again really easily. And then I enjoy writing. So that's the other thing is there. I don't know if you've seen my article about GH so it's in the shrimp school. and it just has a little short story about the GH creep and how like they can kill your shrimp, but it's has a shrimp coming down from heaven and talking to you as you're like looking at this dying shrimp. And hopefully it's, again, weird enough that it just keeps people interested and teaches people, again, a lesson about what to and or not to do with your tank.
Mm-hmm. Now, and it is jam packed full of information. Have you got more articles, right? Have you got more things you want to get down, or is it close to being complete now?
I mean, I don't know about you, Richard, but I have hundreds of video ideas, hundreds of article ideas. There's never going to be a completion. Again, part of the thing is that as soon as you start diving deeper into something, you hopefully hit that stage where you're like, oh, there's not many people know about what's past this point. Why does this happen? Why does this happen? You keep going deeper and deeper, and there's always something new to be thinking about, to be learning about, or like approaching it in a different way. There's always going to be more content. Will people want to be diving that deeper? That deep with me? I don't know. That's a whole other issue if I'm thinking about like the market for this information. But for me, yeah, I have so many ideas that I just don't have time to get in like up and available yet.
So one thing I'm always curious of, if something happens and from tomorrow onwards you can only keep a single species of shrimp, which one would you choose?
I'm going to go with orange Rillies. I'm really glad I got them. As I said, I love the transparent body. There's a cool pattern to be trying to breed. And from what I understand, they're one of the less common shrimp. So if I ever did want to try to put them into like a competition or start selling, they'd be more in demand or potentially more interesting as well. I'm hoping to move those guys into a larger tank at some point. I just don't have the space right now. So that's the main issue.
Mm-hmm. And just out of interest here, see, for me, my water comes out. My water is essentially perfect for Neocaridina shrimp. My water comes out with a pH of about 7.6, 7.8. It's got lots of dissolved minerals. What sort of water are you dealing with? Are you dealing with something that you can work straight off the bat with? Or are you having to adjust it with RO water?
So coming at it from just a scientific perspective, I think that it's really hard to beat remineralized RODI water. Even whether you're keeping Neocaridina, remineralized RODI water is going to be the best. I think that's really hard to argue because you're putting in the exact ratio of minerals you want. There are just going to be no questions. It's the easiest way to ensure the best water quality, I'd say. So tap water for me, I have anxiety, Frank. I have some anxiety. And so thinking about like, oh, what if the pH of my tap water changes? And so that causes like copper pipes that I didn't know were there to leach some copper, kill my shrimp. Like tap water just requires more testing in general. And I prefer to keep things as easy as I can. So doing that remineralized RODI water is just my go-to personally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And do you know what I love this conversation we're having is you approach it from a scientific background, as we've said during this. So you're mm-hmm. taking your water, you're stripping it down, you're making it exactly as you want it, and you're happy. Whereas myself, I know the shrimp do fine out the tap, and I tend to put it in and don't worry about it. And I love the fact we're both having success, but we're approaching it from two different sides. But I don't have your scientific approach, but it's nice that we're both having success doing it two different ways.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the fun thing is that as a shrimp keeper, you can enjoy the hobby with very limited information. I'd say it doesn't require going into this in-depth information, although I think that's great until something. So keeping just a shallow base of information for like a beginner shrimp keeper is great until they start having problems with their tank. And so I think it's fantastic that you can use tap water right out of, just without any modifications really. But some people find that their tap water just doesn't work, and it can have the right GH, KH, all the right parameters. And so why isn't it working? And it can be the problem. Even if, there could be other like issues with their tank as well, but it could just be the water. And that's partly because of the mineral balance in your water. So GH GH is made up of calcium, magnesium, and a couple other like rarer or less like lower concentrations of minerals that also react with the test. So calcium and magnesium are your main ones. And if you just understand like, oh, 6GH should work. Why isn't it working? Why are my shrimp still having molting problems? Well, it could be because your mineral balance is off. And understanding what that is, how to make it better, how to improve your water, could be necessary in order to actually succeed with tap water. Or you switch to RODI water, and both work. I think that I don't want to scare people. I think that to a large extent, tap water is going to work. But if it doesn't, for however many people in the world that tap water doesn't work, understanding why it might not work is incredibly important and useful.
So building on that a little bit, if you meet a brand new shrimp keeper in the street tomorrow, and you somehow meet this person, you find out they're a brand new shrimp keeper, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to them?
Go to shrimplyexplained.com. So basically, the key thing here is first understanding water parameters. So pH, GH, KH, ammonia, nitrites, temperature. By doing that, you get a good idea of how to evaluate your water, how to test for things. And then also, ammonia, nitrates, that introduces you to the cycling process and hopefully gets them thinking about how they might go about setting up a tank and understanding that it is an ecosystem that needs to be carefully thought about before going into it. Because really, I think shrimp keeping takes a little bit of work to just understand those core concepts. But then once you have those, it allows you to set up the tank exactly how you want it. And if you can do that and get that set up just in the right spot, then wait about 2 months or so to let it cycle, let the ecosystem develop, then it makes everything so much easier. Lower maintenance, just less problems overall if you can take time and be patient and understand the concepts from the beginning.
So, Rick, recently I've been reducing the number of water changes I do. I've been trying to build a stable environment through not carrying out water changes. But I'm really curious to find out with your sort of scientific approach, what your thoughts are on water changes in shrimp tanks.
Sure. I know it's something that I've heard quite a few commenters are wanting. It's a video that I've been intending to do and trying to plan out. So I have, let's see. First, why are water changes required? When are water changes required? And that's required anytime there's a buildup of nutrients, whether that's ammonia, nitrites, or something else that we don't necessarily test for frequently. Like if you're dosing fertilizer, so you can have phosphorus, you can have sulfur buildup, and you'd smell that, but you don't necessarily test for it. So understanding what you can test for, like if you see your TDS start to go up, good sign that you might want to do some water changes, that something is there, even if the tests aren't showing it. So knowing when a water change is absolutely required is, of course, critical. The next thing is, when should you be doing water changes? And I think that really depends on your approach, what your goals are. So, Richard, it sounds like from what I've heard, you're looking for a slightly more of a hands-off approach. You're not trying to optimize plant growth, have the perfect lush garden of an aquascape. You're trying to have a live, healthy ecosystem. And so if you're just trying to do that, then you're not going to be adding too many nutrients. You're not like through fertilizers or like optimizing or like trying to maximize shrimp growth with a bunch of food. And as long as you're not adding too many nutrients into the system, there's probably not going to be much buildup. So you can, by understanding your tank, still doing consistent testing, you'll get a really good idea of how long something takes to build up. And at that point, you can decide whether you want to do water changes, whether you want to add more plants. But that can be a very personal thing depending on your ecosystem. Now, if instead you are trying to breed the most shrimp, or you're trying to create the luscious aquascape, you're going to have to add more food and more nutrients to maximize all of those things. So in that case, you're adding more to your tank, and you're going to need to do more frequent water changes, maybe weekly, whatever it takes to be safe is the ultimate goal here. The last reason why you might, so it seems like, I mean, Richard, so you're starting to go to fewer water changes. I know that Mark from Mark's Shrimp Tank also talked about going to fewer water changes. On the other hand, you have breeders who are doing water changes every week, or you have other hobbyists who find they're having the most success by doing them every week. So the fact that there is such a mixed opinion in the community makes me think that there's just not enough evidence that one is significantly better than the other if there is not a clear signal that there's a buildup of nutrients in your tank that needs to be handled. The one case that, so the one reason I'm still trying to do some research on this topic is on optimizing shrimp growth. So shrimp, when they're kept at a higher density, are going to grow less. They grow at a slower rate, and they never reach as big of a size as they otherwise would. You can see this whether that's whether you're keeping them at 5 shrimp per gallon, 10 shrimp per gallon, or higher. It drops off dramatically. And so the question is, why? Why is that happening? Is it so? Some research from like farm shrimp, like what we would eat from a store, the Pacific white-leg shrimp, they seem to say that food aggression is a bit of a problem. So the shrimp that are bigger manage to kind of outcompete the other shrimp, or the smaller shrimp end up getting injured and they never grow as quickly. So that's part of the problem. But I don't think that's the case with shrimp in our tank. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that there's a lot of food aggression per se for Neocaridina?
So I have witnessed, for instance, if I were to drop just 1 or 2 individual bloodworm into a tank, I have certainly witnessed them one or bigger shrimp will come along and it will pull the bloodworm away from another shrimp and run off with it. I did a short not so long ago showing 2 shrimp fighting over an individual bloodworm. But as I said earlier, I'm a massive overfeeder. So I never have that problem, because it's the best part for me is standing there feeding the shrimp and watching them get on with it. So I do suspect there probably is food aggression, but I tend to mitigate that by putting in ample food, to be fair.
Absolutely. I mean, there's something to be said. So for feeding enough, and I don't. It's interesting thinking about how food size affects how you're going to feed your shrimp. If you're feeding them with like little tiny, I don't know, like pellets, little granules that are right here, I mean, there's probably not going to be that much aggression. They can just take them, move away. When you're feeding a larger, some like larger pellet, there's probably going to be more aggression. And so how much does that affect shrimp size? But moving back into water changes here, when we think about it, is if it's not food aggression, what would be the reason why shrimp are not growing as fast? And I wonder if it has something to do with a pheromone in the water that they're releasing themselves. If that's the case, so naturally, if they get stuck in like a pond or like a piece, like some bit of water in a stream that dries up, that kind of gets disconnected from another area, then they're going to be trying to survive. And so if they can all keep their bioload lower, then that's going to benefit them, and their population is more likely to survive. And so they'll pass on their genes. That's how evolution happens. If that's the case with our tanks, then frequent water changes might be really beneficial if you are trying to keep a lot of shrimp and grow and make sure they're growing as fast as possible. If you can remove those pheromones or whatever it is that's in the water and affecting them, then that is just going to be beneficial, help you towards your goals. So little complex. There's a lot there. A ton of interesting stuff. There's just so much interesting. There's so many interesting questions here to be thinking about for how we want to approach our tank. But I hope that looking at it from these different perspectives, like your perspective, my perspective, and getting as much information as possible will hopefully help people make whatever decision is best for them.
Certainly what you're saying there makes perfect sense for those guys who are breeding professionally, and it's all about the number. If you're trying to breed lots and lots of shrimp, then carrying out those large water changes and removing whatever hormones or pheromones might be in the water is obviously does make sense.
I don't know. It's just a theory at this point. So I'd love to find some information to back that up. And so I've been doing a lot of research, just haven't found it yet.
Now, Rick, when it comes to buying new shrimp, what's your preference? Where would you choose to source them from?
It depends. Not the answer everybody likes to hear, but it's just the way it goes. I think that if you have a great store that takes good care of their shrimp and has a good selection, always the local fish store. Understanding it gives you a chance to ask good questions, figure out exactly how they're keeping their shrimp, what they're doing for water changes, trying to mimic that to some degree if you can. Going online gives you the option of probably much more variety. And if you're going to, there are definitely great online sources that ship their shrimp well, that make sure that you're getting something that's pest free. And I think, I know Flip Aquatics tried to do that, Garden of Eder. I'm sure there are many more that are fantastic. So having that option of that variety is great.
Okay, so we've had a fabulous insight into yourself and Shrimply Explained. What's the future for you and your channel and your website?
I mean, more content whenever I can. If you can't tell from the videos, they take a lot of work. Same with the articles. I spend a ton of time trying to make sure that everything is really solidly backed up, and I enjoy it, but it does take a while. So hopefully videos continue on every few weeks or so. Other than that, like more tools, like the recent shrimp hatching calculator. I know you commented on that video, but there are just a bunch of kind of interesting tools that people might be curious about. And so trying to figure out how to make research information more accessible for people through some simple interface is going to be a big goal moving forward. I think there's a lot of room for that. And other than that, I'm just intend to keep having fun, hopefully providing entertaining and useful content for everybody.
So, Rick, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Where can people find out more about you?
For one, shrimplyexplained.com is going to be the main thing where I'll be posting a lot of various articles and more research. I've got the shrimp school that has some very organized information that should help any new shrimp keeper in just get all of the background information that they need to create a great tank and hopefully deal with any little problems that come up for the most part. Other than that, if you're looking for more entertaining content and also very heavily researched, hopefully interesting content, then Shrimply Explained, the YouTube channel, is the other place to find me. So those two, I'm not really on socials like Facebook, Instagram. They're there, but I don't use them as much. So you can definitely keep up with me though on the website and YouTube.
Absolutely superb. Thank you. I'll put links to the website and to your channel in the description below. And you didn't mention that you also have a newsletter that you send out regularly. People can sign up to your newsletter.
Part of the website, I kind of feel like, but yeah, I do have a newsletter that I like to call the Chitin Chronicles. And it just, anyone who would like to stay up to date, latest video releases, and sometimes YouTube notifications aren't always the most, don't always work. I don't know, they don't always go off. You won't always see the articles being posted online. So check out that newsletter if you would like to stay up to date on the latest shrimp keeping information, research, everything to become a better shrimp keeper.
Rick, thank you so much for taking the time to share your knowledge with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Richard. I also want to thank you again for all of what you do for the shrimp keeping community. I think this is a fantastic idea, having podcasts to just bring on various other personalities, anyone that you find it interesting, and getting to hear a little bit more about them in a different format than what their videos might provide. So I love the idea and really appreciate you for everything you do with the shrimp keeping community.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Uh-oh. I think you might be frozen. No. Oh, well. Time to take a drink. Richard, I miss you. Please, come back. Hey, don't do that. Stay focused. Oh, wait. Oh, you see an email. Uh-oh. Let's see. Well, I guess I'll just keep talking about myself because I'm the star of the show, right? I can't do that. That's boring. What to do here? Or something. What can learning about plant growth and substrates in my tank teach me about how a forest ecosystem works? I don't know, but there's a lot of connection there, and it's really interesting. So, Richard, hopefully you can use something there. I'll look forward to whenever you come back. It's a pleasure talking to myself, but I don't know. Let's see. Are there any shenanigans I can get up to? I'm gonna go. Might go get something. No problem. Oh, chilly. Oh, what am I doing? A little noodle right there. See that little noodle right there? It's Coolie Loach. Blah, 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 blah. I wonder if I can take this. Let's see how far I can get. You guys see this? Okay. Cool. We got a little decent view of the tank. This is actually horrible, but you know what? That's okay. Here you go. Got some Amano shrimp. So this is the female Amano. She's pretty much always carrying eggs. Got your male Amano. You've got your Coolie Loach here. Hey, there you are, Richard. What are you up to?
You are a pro. Wow, mate, I'm so sorry. I literally listened to you talking about it. I thought, well, why has he gone quiet? I'm staring at the camera thinking, I don't know why he stopped talking. I looked down. It's just run a bloody update, mate. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no problem at all.
It looks like the recording's carried on. So it looks like
it has. So
what did you carry on doing for the last 10 minutes? Are you just giving us a tour?
Well, I mean, yeah, I saw that you had froze like not too long after I started talking, and I just like, okay, well, I'll do a few more takes. I'll mess around a little bit. We'll see. So maybe you can find something useful there.
You are brilliant. That is absolutely superb. I'm so sorry, mate. It literally just, and then you know what Windows is like? It goes 92%, 93, mate. Okay, listen.
No worries, Richard.
I'm going to assume you finished doing your introduction, and I'm going to be able to get something great out of that.
I mean, let's try it again, really smoothly. One more, if it's okay. If you have time.
Mate, my diary is clear for you. So I